Hey guys, Barrett here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the serve in pickleball. This is the updated guide, updated for 2020 on how to serve in pickleball. I'm going to take you from the basics all the way to the advanced level for serving. Stay tuned. I think this is really going to help. The basic stroke in pickleball, I'm going to be making some analogies here that I think will help. For the grip, when you grip the paddle, try to grip the paddle to where your thumb and your index finger create a V, okay? You see the V, right? Try to create that V, have it point towards your chin, right out in front of you. That will really help to give you a basic grip. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the skillet method. What that means is, imagine you're at the stove and you're kind of tossing some onions or something like that, right? That's what we wanna do when we hit the ball. It's kind of like a skillet, okay? So, we've got our skillet, we've got our onion sauteing in our skillet, and then we're gonna do a bowling motion. And that's it. It's all we want to do, just a nice bowling motion. And all we want to do is face our opponent, okay? Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. Stand behind the center line here, okay? We've got our skillet, and we want to take the paddle back, okay? Back like this, and then through the ball. If you come from tennis or you come from another racket sport, one thing you'll notice is that this ball does not go very far. So you have to give it a little bit of oomph in order to make it go far. So back, up, and let it land in that court. It's okay if it feels like a lob. It's okay if you feel like you're hitting it too high. That's okay. Your goal as a beginner is to get that ball in. The more pickleball you're able to play, the less serving faults you do, the more practice you're gonna get, and that's a good thing. Okay, let's look at it from another angle. All right, I've got my skillet. Here I am, behind the baseline, back, and up and through the ball, okay? Bowling. Nice. Nice and easy. You really want to make sure that you're accelerating through the ball. What happens with a lot of beginners is that they'll sort of stop short because they're afraid of hitting it too far, so they'll do something like this, like that, okay? That's just gonna make you most likely serve short, or worse, what it will do is it will close the paddle face down and the ball will go to the left, right? So you'll come through and you'll do this, and people will kind of jerk it like that, and it'll go to the left. Make sure you're accelerating smoothly through the ball. It's a nice, smooth motion, just like that, nice and easy. Now this is where things get a little bit more complicated. Beforehand, for the beginner serve, we were just standing here normally and really not moving much of our body. We're doing a simple bowling motion, but now we want to get the body mechanics involved. The basic principle behind this is that you want your weight to come through the ball as you're swinging, okay? What that means is that you want to have your weight back and then forward. Now I'm exaggerating this motion, but you can tell if you stand on one foot and then you stand on the other, you see how my weight comes forward? That's gonna help you get a ton of power. It starts from the feet up, okay? So how you do this is when you're serving and you're back here, again, it's easiest just to face your opponent. Have your weight on your right foot, okay, which will be your dominant foot. For me, I'm right-handed, so that's my dominant foot. And then you're gonna step. And when you step, that's gonna help the transfer come through so that when I hit the ball, I come up on this foot. And when I do, the weight transfers through and I hit the ball at the same time. Okay, let me give you a basic look. And boy, I mean, that was way more powerful than the basic serve. Just that little motion. If you're looking for a little bit more power, just do that. You can stop now and just do that. Really, it's so incredible. Stepping forward and letting the weight come through is huge. Now, I come up on my foot like that. I come from golf, that's what I do. You don't have to do that. That's a style of play thing. You can do this, okay? You can also do this if you want to, whatever. As long as you're transferring weight from the back and through, that is what you want. It's revolutionary when you get used to it. You can keep that same bowling-esque swing, okay? But with the weight coming through, it's a huge difference. Sweet, I love it. Now that we've got our weight coming through, another part of an intermediate serve is to make sure that we've got the hips and also the trunk rotating through a little bit when we hit the ball. So we've got our weight coming forward, which is awesome. Now we can get the hips and the trunk involved in the shot. Okay, so I'm stepping forward as usual. Now we're adding in this. It's not a twist, okay? It's not a, like that, stationary. It's a forward turn, okay? Notice how, again, I'm sort of facing my opponent, but my hips are kind of turned a little bit towards the camera here. And then I explode everything through the ball. Okay, let me show you. And what you can do is make sure that you're sort of looking at your elbow or your bicep here. That's how you know that you've come through the ball well enough. If you're here and you kind of still see your left arm here, right? Or your paddle is having trouble coming through, that means that you're not rotating through properly. If you're doing this, right? And you're kind of going like that and your left arm is still here, get that left arm out of the way for right-handers. Get it out of the way. Look, it's all the way behind me. See my hand? Get all that stuff rotating through the ball. If you're not used to that motion, again, we're getting a little bit more advanced here. If you're not used to that, it's going to take some time to get used to. You're probably going to miss hit shots. It's probably going to feel awkward, but the more you practice, the more you're going to get used to it. So focus for the intermediate serve. Focus on those two things. Get your weight coming through and get that trunk and the hips rotating through the ball. Now, let's talk about the advanced serve. Now we're getting fancy. So now we're going to focus on the actual paddle head itself. Once we have the mechanics down, okay, we've got the general swing, the swing path, we've got the momentum coming through. Now we can focus on your forearm, your wrist, your hand, and the paddle itself. So a good general idea for a serve is to get topspin. What happens when you get topspin is as it's coming into the paddle, when it hits the paddle, it sort of climbs up, so to speak, and it goes high when your opponent hits it back. That's very nice because when you're doing your third shot, if the return is nice and high and soft, it gives you time to get set for your third. It could also create a short return, which you can drive over. So it's generally a good idea to try to get topspin on your serve. Thing is though, how do you do that? What I want to try to get across here is this concept of the lag and snap. In golf, I know some of you don't play golf. I don't either anymore, but when you do a golf swing, what they do is they hold this position right here down to the very last moment. And the very last moment they snap and they come through. That creates a tremendous amount of power. And in pickleball, you can do the same thing. Now, here is my big public service announcement here. It's not necessarily wristy. When you are wristy in pickleball, what that means is that when you hit the ball, your wrist is collapsing forward like this, okay? Like that, and it causes the ball to go up. This lag behind here isn't necessarily wristy because when you strike the ball, okay, you strike out here, your wrist hasn't even gotten time to collapse down yet, okay? So make sure that you're not, when you come out here, you're not collapsing the wrist down, okay? You're gonna be hitting the ball out in front of you like this. Now, how do you start this process? What you do is when you take the paddle back, you take it back here, you wanna try to relax your wrist, okay? You have to relax all of this stuff here. If you're not relaxed and everything's nice and intense, you're not gonna get there with this, okay? So you gotta relax, let this lag behind when you're coming through, okay? See how the paddle is kind of flat? You see that? Okay? And then when you come through, everything snaps at the same time. It will give you a tremendous amount of topspin. And that opens up all sorts of things, not just for the serve, but for the ground stroke too, okay? There is another version of the ground stroke that's a little bit better than that, but this is basically how you do it, okay? Forward, keep that lag there as long as possible, and then explode it all out in front of you with that hip and the trunk rotation and everything. Okay, notice the explosion. Let me give you a better angle here. So notice how everything explodes through all at once. This is gonna take a lot of practice, guys. If you're not used to doing stuff like this, I mean, this took me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shots to get used to. So focus on that lag and try to line everything up all at the same time. All the explosiveness all snaps through at once. It's gonna give you a tremendous amount of power and a tremendous amount of topspin. All right, guys, that's it. I hope that was helpful. Here's the thing though, having said all this stuff, the most important thing you can do with your serve is to get it in, okay? This is not tennis, all right? The serve is a relatively easy shot and it's kind of unimportant. I mean, it's basically just the shot that starts the game. It becomes more important as you get better, for sure, don't get me wrong. But your goal is to hit it in that big box. That's your goal. So I hope that was helpful, guys. I've got a couple other videos about the serve. If you want to check those out, you can click up here. I think I'm pointing in the right direction, or up here. Check those out. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me. And as usual, I'll see you next time.